Hello friends, and welcome back. If you're a fan of intense drama, powerful performances, and unforgettable cinema, then get ready. Because today we're going to talk about one of the most anticipated movies of the year. The Surrender, a 2025 film that's already making waves for all the right reasons. If you're someone who loves watching the latest blockbusters in English, and you don't want to miss a single detail, then go ahead and like this video right now. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, a big welcome to you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon, so you're always the first to know about new releases, reviews, and exciting movie updates. In this video, we're going to take you on a complete journey through the world of The Surrender. From the moment the film was announced, to the final cut that made it to the screen, we'll cover everything you need to know. What is the film about? Who's in the cast? Where can you watch it? What's the story behind its production? All of that and more is coming your way. First things first, we'll talk about what The Surrender actually is. We'll give you an overview of the plot, the main characters, and the themes the movie explores. Without spoiling anything, we'll paint a clear picture of what to expect so you can decide whether it's the kind of movie you'd enjoy. Whether it's action-packed, emotionally charged, or deeply mysterious, you'll know what kind of cinematic ride you're signing up for. Next, we'll dive into where and how you can watch The Surrender. Whether it's available on a major OTT platform like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Disney+, or Hulu, or if it's showing on a particular satellite channel, we'll give you all the details so you can easily find it and enjoy it from the comfort of your home, or in a theater, if you prefer the big screen experience. Now let's talk about the people who brought this story to life. We'll go behind the scenes and take a close look at the technical side of the film. From pre-production planning to actual filming on set, from costume and set design to special effects and editing and post-production, every department plays a critical role. We'll also talk about the music of the film. Who composed the score, what kind of soundtrack you can expect, and how music helps shape the overall emotion of the movie. Of course, budget and box office performance are also key elements. We'll reveal how much the movie cost to make, whether it stayed within budget or went over, and how it's doing financially in theaters and on digital platforms. Has it been a box office hit? Is it breaking records? We've got those numbers for you. But we're not stopping there. We'll also discuss the film's critical reception and audience reviews. What are viewers saying about The Surrender? How did critics respond? Is the story being praised for originality, direction, or acting? Or are there any areas where it's receiving mixed feedback? We'll sum it all up in a short, honest review so you know what kind of reception the film is getting. Then, we'll get into the cast. We'll introduce you to the actors who bring the characters to life, talk about the roles they play, and highlight standout performances. Who's the lead? Who's the surprise package? Which performances will leave a lasting impression? Whether it's a seasoned actor or a breakout star, you'll find out who delivered big time. And finally, we'll wrap things up with some fascinating facts and trivia about the film. Things like hidden references, production challenges, interesting choices made by the director, or little-known behind-the-scenes stories that fans love to hear about. These fun tidbits will make you appreciate the movie even more. So friends, if you're as excited about The Surrender as we are, then sit back, relax, and make sure to watch this video all the way to the end. There's a lot to uncover, and we promise to keep it entertaining and informative. Whether you're here just out of curiosity or you're a dedicated movie buff, you're going to enjoy every second. So without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into it. Let's explore the world of The Surrender. Absolutely. Here's an even more fully expanded and detailed version of the plot and narrative section for The Surrender. Still fun, highly engaging, and rich with storytelling energy, without falling into a typical review format. Alright friends, sit tight, because we're about to take a deep dive into the world of The Surrender, and let me tell you, this film doesn't just tell a story, it unfolds like a secret being whispered in your ear over 2 unforgettable hours. From the very first frame, there's this quiet tension, like something just beneath the surface is begging to be discovered. The film begins in a way that feels almost deceptively simple. A foggy morning. An unspoken routine. A character walking through their day as if they've walked it 1,000 times before, but every step they take seems just a little too careful, like they're walking on the edge of something. Then it happens. A letter. A name. A memory. It slips into the character's life like a thread waiting to be pulled, and once it is, everything begins to unravel. And I mean everything. The narrative doesn't hold your hand. It throws you into a river of emotions, time jumps, and psychological depth that you can't just watch. You experience it. You feel it. The film starts to shift, bending the rules of time and perspective. You think you're moving forward, but suddenly you're not. A sound triggers a flash from the past. A touch pulls you back into a buried moment. And what's so genius here is that these aren't your typical flashbacks. They're more like emotional echoes. They creep in and out of scenes, blurring the lines between now and then, between truth and memory. This non-linear structure becomes part of the storytelling itself. It mirrors the character's internal journey. Fragmented, looping, unresolved. Time in this film doesn't behave like a straight line. It's more like a storm, spiraling in and out, coming back to places you thought you'd left behind. But every time the film returns to something, it brings a new perspective, a deeper understanding. A line of dialogue you heard earlier hits completely differently the second time around. You realize that this story isn't just about what happened. It's about how it felt. How it's remembered. How it's carried. Now let's talk about the turning points, because this movie is packed with them, but not in the way you'd expect. There's no dramatic explosion or last-minute rescue. Instead, the big moments here are quiet and devastating. A phone call that doesn't get answered. A letter that's read and then burned. A conversation that starts with small talk but ends with a single word that changes everything. These are the emotional gut punches, the kind that stay with you long after the credits roll. Halfway through the film, there's a major shift. Without spoiling anything, let's just say that something is revealed. Not through dialogue, but through a look, a pause, a choice. And suddenly, you start seeing the entire story in a new light. What felt like a tale of loss becomes something far more layered. A story about guilt, about survival, about the things we choose not to say. It's around this point that the title The Surrender starts to take shape in your mind. But don't be too sure. You're not done unraveling it yet. And then there's the emotional undercurrent. Oh wow. If you thought this was just going to be a plot-driven drama, think again. This film is soaked in emotion. It's about longing, resentment, forgiveness, and the deep ache of missed chances. There's a relationship at the core of this story. It might be romantic, or it might be something else entirely, but it's raw. It's beautiful. It's broken in all the right and wrong ways. Watching these two characters try to navigate the space between them is like watching someone walk a tightrope in the wind. Every word they say feels like it might tip everything over the edge. And this isn't a movie full of loud declarations or big, sweeping speeches. It's in the silences. It's in the way someone's hand hovers over a doorknob. In the way someone stands just close enough to touch, but doesn't. There's one scene, later in the movie, where two characters sit across from each other, and they don't speak for almost a full minute. But that minute is louder than any explosion. That's the kind of film this is. It pulls you in with subtlety and doesn't let go. Throughout all this, themes of control and surrender play like a quiet drumbeat in the background. Who's holding on too tightly? Who's letting go too easily? Who has the power in the moment? And who thinks they do? The film examines these dynamics with sharp precision, but without ever becoming preachy or obvious. It trusts the audience to feel the weight of these moments without spelling everything out. You're expected to pay attention, to connect the dots, to listen between the lines. The emotional payoff builds slowly, steadily, with each scene adding weight, each revelation deepening the impact. By the time the final act arrives, you're not just watching someone surrender. You're surrendering too. To the emotion. To the truth. To the film itself. And that's the magic of it. This isn't a film that gives you easy answers or clean resolutions. It's messy, it's human, and it leaves space for you to reflect on your own life, your own regrets, your own surrenders. So if you're ready for a cinematic experience that doesn't just tell you a story but invites you to live inside it, to wander through its emotions, its fragments, its echoes, then The Surrender is your kind of film. It's not loud. It's not linear. But it lingers. And sometimes, that's the most powerful kind of storytelling there is. Absolutely. Let's take a much deeper dive into the character development in The Surrender. This version will bring out every bit of complexity, evolution, emotional weight, and relational depth these characters carry. All in a fun, immersive, and entertaining way. Here we go. Get ready, because the characters in The Surrender are not just part of the story, they are the story. This film doesn't operate like a chessboard where each character is just a piece moving along to push the plot. Nope. This is more like an orchestra, where every character is an instrument with its own tune, sometimes clashing, sometimes harmonizing, but always building towards something emotional and intense. These characters feel so real, so alive, that by the time you're halfway through the movie, you're not watching them, you're feeling them. Every decision, every hesitation, every flash of the eyes or tightening of the jaw carries weight. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. Let's start with the main character, the soul around whom the entire emotional universe of this film spins. They don't come in with fireworks or grand monologues. In fact, their introduction is so quiet, you might not realize right away just how many layers they're hiding under that calm surface. But pay attention. This is a character who lives in the silences. Someone who has mastered the art of appearing composed while storm clouds rage inside. And as the story progresses, we start to see what that silence is made of. Loss, regret, love that was never spoken, choices that were never made. They are stuck in the in-between, between past and present, between what was and what could still be. And that in-between space is where their entire journey unfolds. We watch them wrestle with vulnerability like it's a foreign language. We watch them hesitate at every emotional doorway, afraid to enter but even more afraid to walk away. Their growth isn't sudden. It's slow, jagged, sometimes painful. But that makes it all the more powerful. One small act of bravery here. One moment of raw honesty there. You start to realize that their transformation is happening not in spite of the pain they carry, but because of it. And then there's the character who serves as their emotional foil, the one who knows them best, perhaps too well. This isn't your stereotypical sidekick or love interest. This is someone with their own damage, their own agenda, their own quietly burning questions. Their presence in the protagonist's life is both a comfort and a challenge. They're the mirror, reflecting back everything the main character doesn't want to see. Their relationship is an emotional battlefield, but not in a dramatic or over-the-top way. It's in the way they talk around things. In the way one of them reaches out when the other pulls away. In the moments when one tries to apologize and the other doesn't let them finish. Their dynamic is heartbreakingly honest, filled with unsaid apologies and memories that still sting. Watching them navigate their shared history feels like watching two people try to walk across a frozen lake. Every step could either bring them closer or crack the ice beneath them. Now, here comes a character that catches you off guard. At first, they seem like background noise, just another face in the room. But slowly, their importance rises like a tide. They become the conscience of the story, the quiet truth-teller. They ask the hard questions. They refuse to let things go. They are the catalyst that pushes the other characters to confront what they've been avoiding. And the best part? They're not perfect either. They're scared, vulnerable, and uncertain, but they still speak up. And in doing so, they become a kind of emotional compass for the entire narrative. Each of these characters is shaped by their past, by things they've done, things they didn't do, things they wish they could forget. And the film doesn't just mention those pasts, it feels them. You see it in the way a character avoids a certain song. In the way someone looks away when a particular name is mentioned. These aren't just details, they're emotional fingerprints. Every character carries their own emotional soundtrack, and when they collide, you can feel the full symphony of love, guilt, tenderness, and frustration playing out in real time. What's truly beautiful is how none of these characters stay the same. They evolve, not in a straight line, but in fits and starts like real people. Someone might open up, only to shut down again. Someone might forgive, only to find that they can't forget. There are moments when a character tries to move forward but is dragged back by something unresolved. And that push and pull, that raw emotional tug-of-war, is what makes their journeys so compelling. The character arcs aren't just about growth. They're about survival. About learning how to carry your story without being crushed by it. About letting go of control, not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to admit you can't control everything. And isn't that what surrender is all about? One of the most powerful aspects of the film is how the characters' relationships aren't fixed. They shift like shadows at different times of day. Friends become strangers. Strangers become allies. Lovers become echoes. Every connection is dynamic, affected by memory, misunderstanding, and the passage of time. There are no easy answers. No clean resolutions. Just people, trying to find each other through the fog of their own pain. So if you love characters that are messy, human, and heartbreakingly real, this film has them in spades. Characters who make mistakes. Who hurt the ones they love. Who love people they shouldn't. who carry regrets like scars. But also characters who change, who grow, who surprise you, who, in the end, show that even in the middle of sorrow, there's a chance for healing, for redemption, for surrender. And isn't that what makes a character truly unforgettable? Not just who they are when the film begins, but who they fight to become by the time it ends. The surrender doesn't just show character development. It lives it. And once you meet these characters, trust me, you won't be forgetting them anytime soon. Let's turn up the spotlight and really bask in the brilliance of the performances in The Surrender, because this cast doesn't just act. They excavate, they reveal, they bleed emotion on screen. You know that rare experience when you're watching a film and you stop seeing actors altogether? You stop analyzing, stop guessing what comes next, and you're just there, completely absorbed, because the people you're watching feel as real and fragile and complex as anyone you've ever known? That's exactly the kind of magic the performers conjure up here. Let's dig into the lead first. This is the kind of performance that doesn't scream for awards attention. It earns it, quietly, with every heartbeat. The actor builds the character from the inside out. From the very first frame, you sense that they're holding something just below the surface. Something broken, something unfinished. They never explain too much, never force a moment, but everything they do is soaked in emotional history. You don't need a flashback to understand this character's pain. You see it in their stillness. You feel it when they linger just a second too long after a goodbye. Every pause, every breath, every time they almost say what they feel and then choose not to, that's where the performance lives. It's controlled without ever feeling cold, and when those emotional cracks finally appear, when they allow themselves to fall apart, even for a moment, it's utterly devastating. And it's not because they raise their voice or break into tears. It's because you know how hard they've been trying not to. Then there's their on-screen counterpart, their emotional equal, the one who shares the weight of the story but carries it in a completely different way. Where the lead holds things in, this character presses. Not with aggression, but with quiet urgency. Their performance is filled with restrained frustration, with the ache of trying to connect with someone who keeps slipping through their fingers. But they're not just reactive. This actor brings so much empathy, so much tenderness, that even in scenes of confrontation, you can feel the love woven through every word. And their timing, flawless. There are moments when a single look across the room changes the entire mood of a scene. Moments where a sigh tells you more than a monologue ever could. They understand their character's wounds, and they never let you forget that even when they seem composed, they're also unraveling in their own way. And when these two leads share the screen, it's like watching two storms collide, sometimes gentle, sometimes ferocious, always deeply charged. The chemistry between them doesn't rely on big romantic moments or cliché setups. It's in the silences, the history, the things left unsaid. The scenes they share are like emotional chess matches. Each move carefully considered, every word hiding something more. You can feel their past, their regrets, their longing, all fighting for space beneath the surface. And the beauty of their performances is that they let all that tension live. They never resolve it too quickly. They trust the audience to feel what they're not saying out loud. And now, let's talk about the supporting cast, because this is where the film becomes a fully breathing organism. The secondary characters in The Surrender aren't just background noise. They are essential, living parts of the world. There's one character in particular, a friend, a former lover, a truth-teller, who walks in with a casual air and absolutely steals every scene they're in. Not because they're flashy, but because they're grounded. Their performance brings clarity to the emotional chaos of the leads. They say the hard things, ask the tough questions, and still somehow manage to offer warmth in the middle of confrontation. You get the sense that they've lived an entire life off-screen, and you'd happily watch an entire spin-off just to learn more about them. Another standout is a character who only appears in a few scenes, but leaves an impression that lingers like a bruise. Their performance is quiet devastation. They deliver one line, just one, that hits like a punch to the gut. Not because of the words themselves, but because of how they say them. Their voice cracks slightly, their eyes don't meet anyone's, and in that tiny fleeting moment, the entire room goes still. That's the kind of precision these actors bring. They don't waste a second. Every look, every silence, every moment is doing something. Even the smallest roles are packed with detail. You've got characters whose body language tells a full story before they even speak. Someone might fiddle with a ring on their finger. Someone else might always sit at the edge of a group, never quite stepping into the center. These choices aren't accidental. They're the result of actors who've done the deep emotional work, who understand exactly who their characters are down to the subtlest habits. And it pays off in a way that makes the entire film feel textured and emotionally rich. One of the most impressive things about the performances is how no one feels like they're acting in a vacuum. The entire cast is listening to each other, reacting, adjusting, responding like it's a living conversation rather than a rehearsed scene. There's a natural rhythm to their interactions that makes you forget you're watching a film. The emotional give and take, the tiny interruptions, the stumbles in dialogue, it all feels completely organic. It feels true. And let's not forget the physicality of the performances. These actors are telling stories not just with their voices, but with their posture, their movements, their stillness. One character hunches slightly, like they're trying to shrink themselves out of existence. Another walks with that kind of tight, measured gait that screams self-control. And then there are those moments where the control breaks, where someone slams a door, or breaks down mid-sentence, or collapses into a hug they didn't think they needed. These moments don't feel scripted. They feel inevitable. This cast doesn't just perform emotions. They embody them. They make you remember what it's like to love someone you can't fix, to regret something you never said, to want to be forgiven but not know how to ask. They turn a simple look into a poem, a shared silence into a memory, a whispered line into an emotional gut punch. That's not just good acting. That's artistry. That's vulnerability. That's the surrender. And once you've seen what these actors can do, you'll find yourself watching every face, every pause, every flicker of expression, hungry to catch more of the truth they're offering up, one breathtaking performance at a time. Alright, let's really dive deep into the world the director has crafted in The Surrender. Because this isn't just a movie slapped together with a camera and some actors. It's a carefully choreographed emotional journey, and the director is the conductor, pulling every string with an expert's touch to shape how the story breathes, how it moves, and ultimately how it sticks with you long after the screen goes dark. From the very first moment, the director sets the tone with an almost whispered subtlety. There's no grand overture or flashy intro. Instead, you get this quiet, contemplative atmosphere that immediately pulls you into the world of the film. The way scenes open and close feels more like watching a series of intimate moments between real people rather than a scripted story unfolding. That choice, opting for realism over spectacle, makes the film feel lived in and deeply personal. The director isn't interested in showing off. They're interested in making you feel. And boy, do they succeed. The tone the director cultivates is layered and nuanced, like a slow simmer rather than a boiling pot. The mood feels heavy at times, but never weighed down by melodrama. Instead, the tension is built through restraint, through silence, through what isn't said just as much as what is. You can feel the director's confidence in trusting the audience to pick up on the smallest of cues. A lingering glance, a paused breath, the slight trembling of a hand. These details aren't accidental. They're carefully crafted moments that reveal the inner lives of the characters and the emotional stakes without hitting you over the head. It's a masterclass in show, don't tell, and the director's restraint gives the story a poetic gravity. Pacing is where this film really shines under the director's guidance. There's a rhythm to The Surrender that's almost hypnotic. It's patient, allowing scenes to breathe and emotions to settle. Rather than rushing to the next plot point or dramatic moment, the director lets us linger in the spaces between, those quiet, almost mundane moments where the weight of the story truly sinks in. Sometimes that means holding a shot a little longer than you expect, or letting silence stretch just a bit too far, creating an almost tactile tension. It's a bold choice in a world where quick cuts and fast-paced action dominate. But here, it's necessary. Because in those pauses, you get to live with the characters' emotions, not just observe them. And the visuals. The director uses the camera like a painter uses a brush. Carefully, deliberately, with an eye for detail that adds layers of meaning without needing to explain anything. The compositions often frame characters in ways that reflect their emotional states. You might notice characters standing at the edge of the frame, isolated in negative space, visually expressing their loneliness or detachment. Or scenes where reflections, shadows or doorways become symbolic gateways to the characters' inner conflicts and choices. The director's visual storytelling is subtle but powerful, filling the film with rich imagery that echoes the themes without being on the nose. Transitions between scenes aren't just functional here. They're part of the emotional language. Instead of abrupt cuts, the director sometimes chooses dissolves, slow pans, or even moments where the camera lingers on a character's face long after the dialogue stops. These choices create a flow that feels natural and immersive, as if you're floating through the emotional landscape alongside the characters rather than watching from a distance. The director understands how to use the rhythm of editing to mirror the story's emotional beats, which keeps you deeply connected throughout. One of the most fascinating aspects is how the director plays with perspective. Sometimes you're right there inside a character's head, trapped with them in tight, claustrophobic shots that convey anxiety or confusion. Other times, the camera pulls back, giving you a wider view that emphasizes distance or isolation. This shifting perspective adds a dynamic layer to the storytelling, making you feel the ebb and flow of connection and alienation that runs through the narrative. It's a clever way of putting the audience directly in the emotional shoes of the characters. The director's relationship with the actors is clearly one built on trust and collaboration. Instead of pushing for rehearsed perfection, the direction feels more like gentle guidance, allowing the actors the freedom to explore and inhabit their characters fully. This freedom results in performances that feel spontaneous and authentic. The director doesn't interfere with the emotional truth. They enhance it by creating a safe space for vulnerability. You can sense that in every scene, the actors and director are engaged in a quiet, creative dance that brings out the rawest, most honest moments on screen. The themes of the film, loss, regret, forgiveness, surrender, aren't handed to the audience on a silver platter. Instead, the director weaves them through the fabric of the film so seamlessly that they become part of the atmosphere, like the shifting light in a room or the changing weather outside a window. This subtle approach encourages the viewer to reflect, to find personal meaning in the story's layers, rather than just absorbing a straightforward message. It's the kind of storytelling that respects the audience's intelligence and emotional depth. The soundtrack and sound design are also very much a part of the director's vision. Music doesn't overwhelm but accents emotional moments with precision. Sometimes silence is louder than any score, and the director isn't afraid to use that silence to build tension or underscore vulnerability. Ambient sounds, the creak of a floorboard, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of a city, are woven in carefully to ground the story in reality and mood. All of this comes together to create a film that feels like a living, breathing exploration of human connection. The director doesn't just tell you a story. They invite you into an emotional world where every frame, every pause, every glance is loaded with meaning. It's a film that lingers with you, that asks you to lean in and feel the unsaid as much as the spoken. And that's the hallmark of direction at its finest. A vision so clear and so sensitive that it turns a simple story into an unforgettable experience. Let's dive even deeper into the mesmerizing world of cinematography in The Surrender, where every single frame feels like a carefully crafted brushstroke in a living, breathing emotional painting. The cinematographer here isn't just capturing images, they're sculpting light and shadow, texture and space, movement and stillness, all working together to tell a story that goes beyond words. This film shows just how powerful a camera can be when it's wielded with intention, heart, and a sharp artistic eye. Right from the opening scenes, the cinematography establishes a mood that's as much about what's left unsaid as what's shown. The lighting plays a starring role, creating layers of atmosphere that pulse with emotional undercurrents. It's fascinating how often the film uses natural or ambient light sources. Sunlight filtering through dusty windows, the dim glow of street lamps, the cold bluish haze of early morning, to paint scenes with an organic authenticity. There's a subtle texture to the light, sometimes soft and caressing, sometimes harsh and cutting, that mirrors the characters' fluctuating emotions. For example, the way sunlight casts long patterned shadows in certain rooms almost feels like a metaphor for the characters' trapped feelings, their pasts looming over them in complex, fragmented ways. The shadows aren't just decoration, they tell their own story, darkening edges here, illuminating a hopeful glint there, making every scene pulse with quiet tension. The framing choices throughout the film are so intentional that they become a language of their own. Characters are often framed through doorways, windows, or between objects, visually expressing feelings of confinement or separation without a single word being spoken. One striking visual motif is how characters frequently occupy the edges of the frame rather than the center, creating a sense of imbalance or vulnerability. It's as if the cinematographer is physically pushing them toward the margins, subtly communicating their emotional isolation. In a particularly memorable scene, a character is framed in a doorway as they hesitate to step forward, the narrow space around them making it feel like they're caught between worlds, past and present, hope and despair, surrender and resistance. These choices turn simple shots into deeply symbolic moments that invite viewers to feel alongside the characters rather than just watch them. Camera angles are chosen with similar care. Instead of dramatic, dizzying angles or overly stylized shots, the film opts for a more restrained approach that feels intimate and immediate. Close-ups dominate, lingering on faces long enough for every micro-expression to register. Every twitch of a muscle, every flicker of the eyes, every slight downturn of the mouth becomes a window into the character's soul. The camera doesn't rush away. It stays, almost uncomfortably close, making you feel like a silent witness to their inner struggles. At other times, wider shots place characters in their environments in ways that emphasize emotional distance or vulnerability. A small figure dwarfed by the vastness of a room, a solitary figure walking through a sprawling landscape. These shifts between close and wide shots create a rhythm that mirrors the ebb and flow of the character's emotional journeys. Movement is used sparingly but with precision, adding another layer of storytelling. The camera glides smoothly through scenes rather than jerking or shaking, creating a sense of calm that contrasts beautifully with the emotional turbulence beneath the surface. When the camera does move, it often follows a character slowly and deliberately, almost as if it's trailing their thoughts or memories. There's a haunting tracking shot where the camera follows a character walking alone through a quiet street at twilight. The fading light casts long shadows, and the silence envelopes the scene, creating a meditative mood that invites you to step inside the character's world of reflection and regret. This measured movement draws you in gently but firmly, making the film's emotional weight impossible to ignore. Selective focus and depth of field are other tools the cinematographer wields masterfully. Characters are often isolated by a shallow depth of field, blurring out the background to focus your attention on a single expression or gesture. This not only emphasizes emotional intensity but also visually separates the character from their surroundings, reinforcing themes of isolation or inner conflict. You feel like you're peering through a window into a private moment, one the characters might rather keep hidden. Occasionally, the background comes sharply into view in ways that surprise you, reminding you that the world around them, with all its pressures and judgments, remains very much present. It's a clever visual push and pull that keeps you emotionally engaged and unsettled in the best possible way. Some moments are outright visual poetry. For instance, a scene where sunlight streams through partially closed blinds creates a pattern of stripes across the room and the characters within it. This effect resembles a cage, both literal and metaphorical, symbolizing the character's feelings of entrapment. It's a simple yet powerful visual that lingers in your mind long after the scene ends. Another unforgettable shot silhouettes two characters against a breathtaking sunset, their dark forms outlined in fiery orange and purple. The colors evoke warmth and beauty but also carry a bittersweet emotional weight. Hope tinged with sadness, connection shadowed by distance. These moments aren't just pretty pictures. They're emotional punctuation marks that deepen your experience. Color grading throughout the film plays an understated but crucial role. The palette favors muted earth tones, soft browns, gentle blues, subdued greens, that ground the story in realism while evoking a certain melancholy. This choice keeps the visuals from becoming distracting, instead supporting the story's emotional undercurrents. When the film does introduce pops of color, like a vibrant red scarf or a glowing light in a window, those bursts feel intentional and symbolic, drawing your eye and heart to moments of significance or hope. The cinematographer's use of color is like a secret code, enriching the narrative without spelling everything out. Tension builds visually too, thanks to the cinematographer's knack for timing and composition. Shots are often held just a beat longer than expected, creating a simmering unease that mirrors the character's emotional states. The slow zooms and tight framing can make you feel trapped alongside the characters, heightening the suspense in quiet, almost imperceptible ways. At times, wide shots emphasize isolation, making characters look small and vulnerable in their surroundings. This contrast between intimacy and distance adds a dynamic texture to the viewing experience. But it's not all tension and shadow. The cinematography also finds beauty and tenderness in the smallest details. Natural light floods certain scenes with a warm glow, highlighting fleeting moments of connection, vulnerability, or peace. The camera captures delicate gestures, a hand brushing hair from a face, a lingering touch, a tear catching the light, transforming them into cinematic moments of poetry. These choices remind you that even in stories about struggle, there's grace, hope, and humanity waiting to be found. Let's really dig into the editing and pacing of The Surrender because this is where the film's heartbeat really starts to take shape, guiding you through its emotional landscape with precision and care. The editors here don't just cut footage together. They craft an experience where time feels malleable, stretching and contracting to mirror the characters' inner turmoil and the story's shifting moods. It's a delicate balancing act, and the way they handle it shapes how you connect with every twist, turn, and quiet moment. From the very first scene, the editing sets the tone by choosing a pace that feels deliberate but never sluggish. It's almost like the film breathes, inhaling and exhaling through each cut and transition. Scenes aren't rushed, they're given room to unfold naturally, which is essential when dealing with a story that leans heavily on emotion, subtlety, and introspection. You get to linger in moments of silence and stillness, and those pauses are gold. They let the emotional weight sink in deeply. It's refreshing because in many modern films, everything zooms by so fast that you barely have time to catch your breath, let alone feel the full impact. Here, the editors know exactly when to hold on a glance, a gesture, or a small pause to let it resonate. Transitions between scenes are particularly impressive because they never feel abrupt or disjointed. The film favors smooth dissolves, fade-ins, and fade-outs that feel almost like a gentle caress, guiding you from one emotional beat to the next without jolting you out of the experience. Sometimes sound bridges are used, where the audio from the next scene starts before the visuals cut over, adding to the seamless flow. This approach subtly knits the story together and helps the narrative feel like a continuous emotional journey, rather than a series of isolated events. It's a flow that invites you to become fully immersed rather than just passively watching. One of the editing's cleverest moves is how it plays with pacing in a way that feels unpredictable but entirely earned. The rhythm of the film isn't uniform. It slows down to savor intimate, vulnerable moments, then speeds up to heighten tension or emotional stakes. This uneven pace mirrors real life, the way moments of quiet contemplation can be suddenly shattered by emotional upheaval or conflict. For example, some scenes might start slowly, with long shots and minimal dialogue, drawing you into a character's solitude or hesitation. Then, almost without warning, the cuts tighten and come faster as emotions boil over or decisions snap into place. This shift isn't jarring but feels like a natural crescendo that pulls you deeper into the unfolding drama. What's particularly brilliant is how the editing handles flashbacks and memories. The story isn't told in a strictly linear way. Instead, past and present interweave smoothly, enriching your understanding of the characters without confusion. The editors use visual cues like subtle changes in color tone or shifts in focus to signal these jumps in time, but the transitions themselves are fluid and almost poetic. Scenes from the past don't just interrupt. They flow into the present like waves, washing over the narrative and deepening your emotional connection. This technique helps you experience the characters' internal struggles as living, breathing parts of their reality, not just background exposition. Dialogue scenes feel extraordinarily real because the editing respects the natural rhythm of conversation. There are no rapid-fire cuts or over-edited exchanges. Instead, the camera lingers on reactions and pauses just as people do in real life. Sometimes a character's silence speaks louder than words, and the editing allows those silences to breathe, capturing the unspoken tension and complexity between characters. The result is a dialogue flow that feels authentic, allowing the emotional subtext to rise naturally rather than being forced. Another thing to note is how the editing gives space for characters' reactions. Those small but telling moments after a line is delivered or an event occurs. The film doesn't cut away immediately. It holds on expressions, slight shifts in posture, or a glance that reveals inner conflict or vulnerability. These moments add layers of depth, encouraging you to read between the lines and feel the emotional undercurrents without them being spelled out. It's a masterful way of making the audience an active participant in piecing together the emotional puzzle. The pacing also smartly balances stillness and movement throughout the film. There are plenty of quiet, contemplative scenes where the camera and cuts hold steady, inviting reflection. Then there are sequences where the tempo picks up, either through quicker cuts, more dynamic compositions, or intensified sound design. This variation prevents the film from feeling monotonous, keeping your attention sharp and your emotions engaged. It's like a musical composition with soft verses and powerful choruses, each enhancing the other. Tension is built gradually through editing choices, too. The film doesn't rush to deliver conflict or emotional peaks but instead layers smaller moments of discomfort, hesitation, or unresolved tension. Each cut, each pause adds to this mounting pressure until you feel the emotional stakes climbing almost imperceptibly but irresistibly. When the big moments arrive, they hit with full force because the groundwork has been laid so carefully and patiently. At the same time, the editing resists the temptation to overplay dramatic moments. Instead of lingering excessively on scenes of confrontation or heartbreak, it often cuts away just before the moment becomes melodramatic, trusting the audience to fill in the emotional gaps. This restraint creates a sophisticated emotional texture that feels honest and grounded rather than manipulative or overwrought. Lastly, the editor's pacing choices support the film's themes perfectly. The ebb and flow of the narrative's tempo mirror the character's struggles with surrender, control, and acceptance. When the story demands stillness and introspection, the editing slows to a contemplative crawl. When the characters face pivotal moments of decision or confrontation, the cuts sharpen and quicken, heightening emotional urgency. This interplay of pacing and narrative gives the film a rhythm that feels intimately connected to its heart. In sum, the editing and pacing of The Surrender are like a hidden engine powering the film's emotional journey. They guide you through the story with a rhythm that feels both natural and deeply felt, balancing moments of quiet reflection with bursts of tension and release. The editors craft a flow that is immersive and compelling, ensuring that every pause, every transition, and every cut serves the larger emotional and narrative purpose. Watching the film is less about keeping up with plot points and more about experiencing a lived emotional journey, all shaped by the expert hands of the editing room. Let's dive deeper into the soundtrack and score of The Surrender, because this is where the film's emotional soul really gets a voice beyond words. The music doesn't just sit in the background as filler. It's a living, breathing part of the storytelling that subtly influences how you feel about every scene, every glance, and every quiet moment. It's like a secret language spoken through melodies and rhythms that gently tug at your heartstrings, often without you even realizing it consciously. Right from the opening moments, the score sets an atmospheric tone that feels intimate yet expansive, perfectly matching the film's emotional scope. There's a haunting delicacy in the music. Delicate piano notes that seem to hover in the air, soft strings that stretch and swell with emotional resonance, and sometimes subtle, almost ghostly ambient sounds that echo beneath the surface. These musical elements create a sense of longing and vulnerability, drawing you deep into the inner worlds of the characters. You get the feeling the music is expressing what words can't quite capture. The unspoken fears, hopes, and regrets that shape the story. One of the standout features of the soundtrack is its recurring musical motifs. These themes pop up throughout the film, evolving alongside the narrative and characters. For example, a fragile piano melody might introduce a character's emotional state early on, but as their journey unfolds, the same melody might return in a slower, more fragmented version, or be layered with richer orchestration to reflect growth, heartbreak, or transformation. This kind of musical storytelling adds a whole other layer to the film. It's like the score is a parallel narrative thread, deepening your emotional engagement without the need for dialogue. What makes the score especially compelling is its masterful use of silence and space. There are moments when the music pulls back almost entirely, allowing scenes to breathe in near silence. These pauses are powerful. They create tension, let emotions simmer, and give you space to absorb what's unfolding on screen. Sometimes the absence of music is even more striking than its presence because it makes the ambient sounds, the rustle of leaves, a distant car, a heavy breath, stand out. This contrast between music and silence creates a dynamic rhythm that keeps the viewer emotionally alert and connected. It's a subtle but incredibly effective technique that shows how well the filmmakers understand the emotional power of sound, or the lack thereof. As the story shifts between quieter, introspective moments and scenes charged with tension or urgency, the score adapts flawlessly. During reflective sequences, you might hear sparse, minimalistic arrangements that mirror the character's vulnerability and contemplation. The music feels like a soft whisper, inviting you to lean in closer. But when emotions rise, whether it's conflict, revelation, or crisis, the score intensifies, not with over-the-top drama but with layered instrumentation, rising crescendos, and rhythmic pulses that build suspense and emotional weight. This dynamic range keeps the film feeling alive and immersive, never letting the soundtrack become repetitive or predictable. Another fascinating aspect is the blending of classical instrumentation with subtle electronic textures. The score often weaves gentle piano and string arrangements with ambient electronic undertones that simmer beneath the surface. This fusion gives the music a modern yet timeless feel, perfectly matching the film's themes of personal struggle, change, and the blurred boundaries between past and present. The electronic elements add an intangible, almost ethereal quality that makes the soundscape feel rich and multidimensional. It's like the music itself is layered with emotional complexity, mirroring the characters' journeys. The way the soundtrack interacts with the film's characters is also worth exploring. Each character seems to have musical signatures that reflect their personality, motivations, and emotional states. As the story progresses and the characters face challenges or revelations, these musical themes evolve, sometimes becoming more fragmented or dissonant, other times swelling with hopeful harmonies. This musical evolution adds a profound sense of continuity and connection throughout the film, allowing the audience to feel the characters' internal growth and struggles in a deeply visceral way. In addition to the composed score, The film's sound design works hand in hand with the music to create an immersive auditory experience. Natural sounds, like footsteps, wind, distant traffic, or the creak of a door, are carefully woven into the soundscape, sometimes blending seamlessly with the score. This technique blurs the line between diegetic sound, what exists within the story world, and non-diegetic music, added for emotional effect, grounding the film's emotional moments in a believable, lived-in reality. It's a subtle layering that makes the world feel more tactile and authentic, pulling the viewer even deeper into the narrative. The soundtrack also shines in how it supports the film's emotional beats without ever overpowering them. The music knows when to step forward and when to quietly recede, ensuring that performances and dialogue remain the primary focus. It never tries to manipulate the audience with loud or bombastic cues. Instead, it opts for emotional honesty and restraint. This choice lends the film a mature and nuanced feel, where the music enhances rather than distracts from the storytelling. Throughout the film, the score's pacing aligns beautifully with the editing and narrative rhythm. When the story slows down for moments of reflection or character development, the music adopts a slower tempo and more spacious arrangements, encouraging the audience to settle into the emotional atmosphere. Conversely, during moments of heightened drama or conflict, the music picks up pace and intensity, heightening suspense and emotional urgency. This synergy between sound and story rhythm creates a cohesive sensory experience that feels natural and deeply satisfying. Ultimately, the soundtrack and score of The Surrender act like an emotional compass, guiding the audience through the complexities of the film's themes and characters. It's not just about melody or harmony, it's about how music can evoke memory, longing, fear, and hope in ways that words alone cannot. The composers and sound designers have crafted a soundscape that is at once subtle and powerful, intimate and expansive, enriching the film's emotional texture and leaving a lasting impression. It's a masterful example of how sound can elevate cinema into something that touches the soul. The Surrender dives headfirst into a rich ocean of themes that ripple beneath the surface of its story, inviting viewers to swim in deeper waters long after the last scene fades away. One of the most captivating threads weaving through the film is the idea of surrender, not as a sign of weakness or defeat, but as an act of courage, wisdom, and profound transformation. It challenges the common notion that holding on tightly is strength, suggesting instead that true power often lies in the willingness to let go. This theme isn't slapped on like an afterthought. It's deeply embedded in every twist, every emotional beat, and every character's journey, making the whole experience feel authentic and heartfelt. At its core, the film explores the dance between control and freedom, a universal tension that many people wrestle with. We all want to steer our lives, to build walls around ourselves for protection, to keep things just so safe, predictable, and comfortable. But The Surrender shows how this desire to control often traps the characters in invisible cages, making them prisoners of their own fears and expectations. The film cleverly reveals how the act of surrender, whether it's surrendering to love, to grief, or to the unpredictable currents of life, can actually unlock freedom. This isn't a preachy moral. It's a lived truth that emerges naturally as the characters stumble, resist, and eventually open up to new possibilities. The film invites the audience to question their own attachments and to consider whether their grip on control is helping or hindering their growth. Forgiveness and reconciliation are woven deeply into the film's emotional fabric as well. Characters carry heavy loads of guilt, regret, and unresolved pain, baggage that colors their interactions and choices. The narrative delicately explores how surrendering includes the difficult but healing process of forgiving others and oneself. It portrays this journey with nuance, acknowledging how hard it is to let go of grudges or self-blame without simplifying or glossing over the complexity of human emotions. Instead, the film honors the messy, slow, and often painful path toward peace, showing that forgiveness is less about forgetting and more about reclaiming your own freedom from the weight of past wounds. This message resonates because it feels real, earned through the character's struggles rather than handed down as a tidy lesson. Identity and self-acceptance are another powerful theme pulsing through the film. Each character grapples with the gap between who they are, who they want to be, and who others expect them to be. This tension sparks internal conflict, highlighting the societal pressures and personal doubts that complicate the quest for authenticity. The film explores how surrendering rigid identities and embracing vulnerability can open doors to a fuller, more honest existence. It portrays identity not as a fixed point but as an evolving landscape shaped by experiences, relationships, and self-discovery. This idea hits close to home in a world where people often feel pressured to fit into neat categories or present curated versions of themselves. The movie champions complexity, imperfection, and the courage it takes to live truthfully in spite of it all. The interplay of past and present is handled with thoughtful subtlety, making the film's emotional stakes feel even higher. Memories, regrets, and unresolved histories aren't just background details. They actively shape the character's current struggles and decisions. The surrender highlights how facing the past, rather than running from it, is crucial to personal growth. It presents this theme not as a melodramatic revelation but as an honest, sometimes painful reckoning that can ultimately lead to healing. This exploration invites viewers to reflect on their own lives. How does your past influence your present? What might happen if you allowed yourself to confront and accept those memories instead of burying them? The film doesn't offer easy answers, but it creates a space where such questions feel meaningful and urgent. Freedom itself is a tantalizing and multifaceted theme running through the story. The film asks big questions. What does it really mean to be free? Is freedom about constant struggle and resistance, or is it found in surrender, acceptance, and trust? These philosophical inquiries never feel heavy-handed because they're embedded in the lived experiences of the characters. You see freedom unfold not as an abstract concept but as a tangible shift in how the characters relate to themselves and each other. This theme invites the audience to reconsider their own definitions of freedom and control, sparking an internal conversation that lingers beyond the viewing experience. Human connection is another vital thread. The film shows that surrender isn't only an internal journey. It happens in the context of relationships. Characters learn that by surrendering defensiveness, pride, or fear, they can build bridges instead of walls. Relationships in the film are portrayed as beautifully fragile yet remarkably resilient, full of misunderstandings but also moments of tenderness and grace. This theme underscores how surrender can be a powerful act of love and trust, a way to break down barriers and invite deeper intimacy. It's a reminder that connection often requires letting go, not just of control, but of ego and expectations. What's particularly refreshing about the surrender is how it embraces ambiguity and complexity rather than offering neat, tidy answers. The themes unfold with subtlety and depth, often presenting contradictions and open questions that mirror real life. This refusal to simplify makes the film's messages feel genuine and invites the audience to engage actively, to think, feel, and discuss, rather than passively consume. It trusts viewers to sit with uncertainty, which in turn makes the themes more resonant and lasting. In the end, the thematic richness of the surrender lies in how seamlessly it weaves profound ideas about control, freedom, forgiveness, identity, and connection into a story that's emotionally engaging and deeply human. It's a film that stays with you because it doesn't just tell you what to think or feel. It invites you to explore what surrender might mean in your own life, offering no easy answers but plenty of insight, compassion, and hope along the way. When diving deeper into the visual effects and CGI of the surrender, one can really appreciate the craftsmanship and thoughtfulness that went into making these elements feel like a natural extension of the film's world rather than an obvious addition. Right from the start, the filmmakers made a clear choice to prioritize immersion and emotional engagement over flashy, attention-grabbing spectacle. Instead of overwhelming the audience with loud in-your-face effects, the CGI is carefully calibrated to enhance the story's atmosphere, mood, and character experiences, which is a refreshing approach in an era where sometimes effects feel shoehorned in just for wow factor. One of the most impressive aspects is the way the practical effects and CGI work hand in hand to create a seamless visual texture. Practical effects, the tangible physical stuff happening on set, give the film a grounded, real-world feel. This is crucial because no matter how advanced digital technology becomes, there's something about real objects, real light, and real interactions that digital effects struggle to replicate perfectly. When practical effects are strong, they set a foundation that CGI can then build on, filling in gaps or adding subtle enhancements that would be difficult or impossible to achieve otherwise. The surrender leans heavily into this synergy, and it's evident in how the CGI elements don't clash with the physical world but instead blend smoothly, making it hard to tell where reality ends and digital artistry begins. The CGI in the film is often subtle but incredibly effective. It's not about creating grand explosions or elaborate fantasy sequences. Instead, it's more about mood setting and emotional layering. For instance, you might notice soft glows, delicate shifts in lighting, or barely there distortions that evoke a character's internal state or the underlying tension of a scene. These moments don't scream for attention but rather invite you to lean in, to notice the nuances, and to feel the undercurrents of emotion flowing beneath the surface. This kind of restrained digital work is a sign of a mature visual effects team that understands storytelling above all else. What really stands out is the way the CGI integrates with the film's chosen color palette and lighting design. The digital elements mirror the warmth, shadows, and textures captured by the cinematographer, maintaining visual consistency that keeps the audience fully immersed. This means that whether the CGI is adding a shimmer on water, a subtle environmental effect like fog or dust particles, or enhancing background details, it doesn't feel jarring or artificial. Instead, it contributes to the film's overall aesthetic, enriching the visual storytelling in ways that deepen the viewer's connection to the scene. Another fascinating layer to the film's visual effects is their use in conveying psychological and emotional states. Rather than relying on dialogue or overt exposition, some CGI moments visually express what a character might be feeling or experiencing internally. For example, a scene might subtly distort or ripple to reflect a character's anxiety or memory flashbacks, or a faint halo of light could envelop a moment of realization or emotional surrender. These creative choices add a poetic dimension to the film, turning abstract feelings into tangible visuals that resonate on a subconscious level, making the viewing experience more immersive and layered. The balance between practical and digital effects also shines in the way the two interact during scenes involving physical interaction or movement. When CGI elements have to physically touch or respond to actors or objects, like digital smoke swirling around a character's hand or subtle magical effects entwining with real-world props, the execution is flawless. This level of detail prevents the common pitfall of CGI feeling disconnected or floating awkwardly in a scene. Instead, the effects feel anchored and part of the same reality the characters inhabit, which is no small feat and speaks to the skill of the visual effects artists and the director's clear vision. Even though the film avoids excessive CGI, the moments where it does appear are designed with care and creativity. Some sequences flirt with the surreal, using digital effects to create dreamlike imagery that feels at once familiar and otherworldly. These moments aren't just eye candy. They serve a narrative purpose, helping to illustrate themes of memory, loss, or inner conflict. This inventive use of visual effects adds richness to the film's storytelling toolkit and demonstrates how digital technology, when used thoughtfully, can elevate a film's emotional and artistic impact without overwhelming it. The visual effects team also pays attention to small details that many viewers might not consciously notice but that add up to a more believable and immersive world. Things like the way light reflects off surfaces, the subtle particle effects that give scenes depth and texture, or the interplay of shadows and highlights. All these details contribute to a cohesive visual experience. This meticulous approach ensures that every frame feels carefully crafted, drawing the viewer further into the film's atmosphere and emotional landscape. In summary, The Surrender uses visual effects and CGI not as flashy, standalone elements but as integral tools that enhance the film's storytelling and emotional resonance. The seamless blend of practical effects and digital enhancements creates a tactile, immersive world that feels both real and richly textured. The restrained, thoughtful use of CGI supports the narrative by adding layers of mood, atmosphere, and psychological depth, inviting viewers to engage more deeply with the characters' journeys. Far from distracting, the visual effects quietly work behind the scenes to make the film's world feel alive, vivid, and emotionally compelling. A perfect example of how digital artistry can serve story rather than overshadow it. Sure. Here's a further expanded version focusing on the visual effects and CGI in The Surrender, delving deeper into the details, craftsmanship, and narrative role they play in the film's overall impact. When it comes to the visual effects and CGI in The Surrender, what immediately stands out is the masterful way they are woven seamlessly into the film's very fabric, creating an immersive world that feels natural and emotionally charged rather than artificially enhanced. The filmmakers clearly understood that the true power of effects lies in their ability to support the story and deepen the viewer's engagement, rather than simply to dazzle with spectacle. This philosophy shines through in every frame, where effects are used sparingly but with great precision, elevating the narrative without ever overwhelming it. A cornerstone of the film's success in visual effects is its thoughtful integration of practical effects alongside CGI. The movie leans heavily on tactile, real-world elements, props, set design, physical makeup, and on-location filming, that anchor the visuals in authenticity. This grounded base makes the CGI feel like a natural extension rather than an obvious add-on. It's this harmony between physical and digital that creates a visual consistency and warmth rarely achieved in effects-heavy films. You don't get that jarring feeling of computer-generated clashing with reality. Instead, it feels as if both are parts of the same seamless world. The CGI itself is a lesson in subtlety and restraint. Unlike blockbuster films that often pile on visual effects for spectacle, The Surrender uses digital tools as delicate brushstrokes, enhancing moods and adding emotional depth. For example, subtle digital enhancements like faint glows around characters, ethereal light shifts, or whispered environmental effects such as drifting mist or flickering shadows serve to amplify the emotional texture of scenes. These effects never demand attention for themselves but invite the audience to lean closer, engaging them in the psychological and emotional subtext. What's particularly impressive is how the visual effects team matched the color grading, lighting, and grain of the live-action footage so meticulously that the CGI elements blend almost invisibly. Whether it's a softly shimmering reflection in water or delicate particles floating in a sunbeam, these details enrich the visual storytelling, adding layers of texture and atmosphere without ever pulling the viewer out of the moment. This attention to detail showcases not only technical skill but also a profound artistic sensibility attuned to the film's tone. The interplay between practical and digital effects becomes especially fascinating in scenes where digital elements interact directly with actors or physical props. Whether it's a subtle enhancement to a character's gesture or a digital effect that seems to ripple across a real surface, these moments are crafted with such precision that they feel physically present and tactile. This level of craftsmanship avoids the common pitfalls of CGI feeling detached or floating, and instead anchors it firmly in the film's physical reality. Visually, some CGI sequences venture into poetic territory, using digital effects to visualize internal psychological states or emotional shifts. Surreal ripples, faint distortions in the environment, or softly glowing auras aren't just visual flourishes. They're symbolic expressions of what characters are feeling beneath the surface. This creative use of effects adds an abstract, almost dreamlike layer to the film, giving the audience a window into the intangible aspects of the characters' experiences. It's a subtle but powerful way of expanding the narrative's emotional range through purely visual means. The film also leverages digital effects to enhance mood and tension in more grounded ways. For instance, enhancing environmental elements like fog, rain, or shadows adds a sensory dimension that heightens atmosphere and suspense. These effects create an immersive setting that envelopes viewers and draws them deeper into the film's emotional landscape. Rather than feeling like an afterthought or filler, these digital touches contribute directly to the storytelling, shaping the viewer's experience moment by moment. Another area where the visual effects shine is in the understated but deliberate use of motion graphics and compositing to frame key moments or transitions. These choices may be subtle, like a slow fade into a digitally enhanced sunset or a seamless blend between two locations, but they provide a fluidity to the storytelling that keeps the narrative flowing smoothly. This seamlessness also helps the film maintain a consistent visual language, allowing the audience to remain emotionally connected without distraction. What's remarkable is the collaborative spirit evident in how the visual effects integrate with other departments. Cinematography, lighting, sound design, and direction all seem in perfect sync with the VFX work, each enhancing the other. This holistic approach ensures that effects never feel isolated or artificially inserted, but are part of a cohesive artistic vision. It's a reminder that the best visual effects aren't just technical achievements. They're storytelling tools that require close cooperation across the filmmaking team. The results of this careful, balanced approach are effects that feel invisible yet indispensable, like the air you breathe in the film's world. You may not always consciously notice them, but they shape your perception, heighten your emotions, and draw you ever deeper into the narrative. They add richness and depth, painting the unseen emotions and psychological currents that words alone can't capture. In essence, The Surrender exemplifies how visual effects and CGI can serve a story with subtlety, sophistication, and artistry. It's not about how many effects you use or how spectacular they look on their own. It's about how well those effects integrate into the world you're creating and how they help tell the story more powerfully. Here, the balance between practical and digital effects, the attention to detail, and the creative use of CGI as a narrative device come together to create a film that feels deeply immersive, emotionally resonant, and visually beautiful without ever shouting for attention. It's a masterclass in how modern filmmaking technology can quietly and effectively enhance the art of storytelling. The dialogue and script in The Surrender stand out as some of the film's most compelling features, offering a rich tapestry of conversation that feels at once natural, sharp, and deeply engaging. From the very first exchange, you get the sense that the writers weren't interested in simply moving the plot along with basic exposition. Instead, they aim to create dialogue that breathes life into the characters and invites the audience into their intricate emotional worlds. Every line feels deliberate, chosen not just for what it says but for how it sounds, how it feels, and what it hints at beneath the surface. One of the most striking qualities of the script is its ability to balance authenticity with a touch of artistry. The characters speak the way people actually do, sometimes stumbling over words, interrupting each other, or trailing off in mid-sentence. This messy, imperfect style of dialogue helps to break down the barrier between the audience and the screen, making the interactions feel spontaneous and lived in rather than rehearsed. It's the kind of writing that mimics the rhythms and cadences of real conversations, capturing the pauses, hesitations, and emotional undercurrents that shape human communication. This realism makes the story much more relatable and immersive because you believe these people exist beyond the screen. The script is also notable for its sharp wit and clever use of language. Rather than relying on broad humor or predictable punchlines, the film offers moments of understated comedy that arise naturally from the characters' personalities and situations. Whether it's a dry remark delivered with perfect timing, a sly observation about the absurdity of life, or a quick exchange loaded with irony, these instances of wit provide a welcome balance to the film's heavier themes. They keep the tone lively and prevent the story from becoming too bleak, allowing the audience to experience a full range of emotions. Emotional depth permeates the script, with dialogue that carries multiple layers of meaning. Sometimes the most powerful moments are the quietest, simple statements loaded with regret, longing, or unspoken conflict. The writing cleverly uses subtext to convey these feelings, trusting viewers to pick up on the nuances rather than spelling everything out. This approach invites deeper engagement, as the audience becomes an active participant in deciphering the characters' true thoughts and feelings. It's this subtlety that makes the emotional beats hit harder, making you feel the weight of what's being said, and what's being left unsaid. Throughout the film, there are several standout lines that linger in the mind long after they are spoken. These lines aren't just memorable because of their phrasing. They encapsulate key themes, reveal crucial insights about the characters, or capture the essence of the story in a way that resonates universally. These moments often serve as emotional or philosophical anchors, giving viewers something to reflect on. They are carefully crafted to avoid cliché, instead offering fresh perspectives or poignant truths that deepen the narrative's impact. The dialogue also plays a crucial role in defining relationships and power dynamics between characters. How someone chooses their words, the tone they adopt, and the pauses they insert reveal volumes about their intentions, fears, and desires. The script expertly uses these conversational nuances to show shifting alliances, growing mistrust, or tender moments of connection without the need for explicit exposition. This makes the interactions feel like a complex dance where every word is part of a larger emotional negotiation, adding tension and intrigue to the story. Another fascinating aspect of the script is its rhythmic pacing. The conversations ebb and flow with a natural cadence, moving briskly when the scene demands urgency or tension, and slowing down to allow introspection or emotional vulnerability. This pacing helps maintain engagement, keeping the audience hooked while allowing moments of pause to fully absorb the emotional texture of the story. The variation prevents any sense of monotony and keeps the film feeling dynamic and alive. The layered subtext within the dialogue adds an additional dimension to the viewing experience. Many lines carry dual meanings or hint at hidden motivations, encouraging viewers to listen carefully and think critically about what's really being communicated. This complexity enriches the storytelling, offering fresh discoveries on repeat viewings and deepening appreciation for the craft behind the writing. Moreover, the script showcases a remarkable sensitivity to character voice. Each character's dialogue is tailored to reflect their background, personality, and emotional state, creating a diverse linguistic palette throughout the film. Some characters speak with clipped, precise sentences, reflecting control or restraint, while others use more rambling, emotional speech patterns that reveal vulnerability or chaos. This attention to vocal individuality not only makes the characters more believable but also adds texture and contrast to the film's overall dialogue landscape. The writing also cleverly incorporates cultural, social, and psychological nuances, grounding the story in a believable context that feels relevant and contemporary. The dialogue reflects real-world concerns, tensions, and relationships without feeling preachy or didactic, striking a fine balance between meaningful commentary and engaging storytelling. Finally, the script's ability to convey complex emotions and themes through dialogue rather than exposition speaks to its sophistication. Instead of telling the audience what to think or feel, it invites them to experience the story's emotional currents through what the characters say and how they say it. This approach respects the audience's intelligence and emotional capacity, creating a richer, more rewarding cinematic experience. In sum, the dialogue and script in The Surrender do much more than simply move the plot forward. They create a living, breathing world filled with nuanced characters, sharp wit, emotional depth, and memorable moments. This carefully crafted writing not only anchors the film's narrative, but also invites viewers into a deeply immersive and resonant storytelling journey that stays with you long after the final scene. The Surrender dives into its genre with an enthusiasm that's both familiar and refreshingly inventive, creating a cinematic experience that feels like a conversation between tradition and innovation. Right from the outset, the film sets the tone by embracing many of the hallmark elements audiences expect, be it tension-building moments, character archetypes that feel like old friends, or plot beats that nod to the genre's classic structure. But what makes this film truly stand out is how it doesn't just settle for checking boxes. Instead, it plays with those conventions, sometimes flipping them on their head or twisting them in unexpected ways that keep you on your toes. The film's relationship with genre clichés is particularly interesting. Where many movies might fall into the trap of relying on worn-out tropes without much thought, The Surrender actively acknowledges them and uses that familiarity as a springboard for creativity. For example, a character who might initially come off as a stereotype will slowly reveal layers that challenge the audience's assumptions. Plot points that seem predictable start to unravel in surprising directions, injecting a fresh sense of unpredictability that elevates the storytelling. This clever subversion feels earned rather than gimmicky, because it grows organically from the characters' motivations and the story's internal logic. When it comes to the balance of action and suspense, the film is smart about pacing and intensity. Unlike some genre entries that bombard you with non-stop thrills, The Surrender understands the value of restraint. Action sequences are used purposefully. They are intense but not gratuitous, perfectly timed to escalate tension and deepen the stakes without overshadowing character development. Suspense isn't just about what's happening on screen but also what's hinted at or left unsaid, creating a rich atmosphere of anticipation that pulls the audience deeper into the narrative. This measured approach allows suspense to simmer and build, making the payoff moments all the more satisfying. Humor in The Surrender feels like a natural extension of the characters themselves, rather than a forced addition to lighten the mood. The film smartly avoids slapstick or overly broad jokes and instead leans on subtle wit, irony, and situational comedy that arises from genuine interactions. This kind of humor adds layers to the characters, showing their resilience, flaws, and humanity even when the stakes are high. These moments of levity give the audience a breather and remind us that even in the most intense situations, people find ways to laugh and connect. It's humor that respects the tone of the film while enriching its emotional palette. Drama takes center stage in The Surrender, and it's handled with a sophistication that feels rare in genre films. Rather than simplifying conflicts into black and white battles of good versus evil, the narrative explores complex, morally ambiguous situations that force characters, and viewers, to grapple with difficult choices. Relationships are nuanced and evolve in believable ways, marked by tension, forgiveness, betrayal, and moments of genuine connection. This depth prevents the drama from slipping into melodrama, giving the story a grounded emotional core that resonates long after the credits roll. One of the most impressive feats of The Surrender is how it manages to blend these varied elements, action, suspense, humor, drama, into a cohesive whole without feeling disjointed or uneven. The shifts in tone are handled with finesse, allowing the film to feel dynamic and alive rather than tonally confused. Just when you might expect a lull, the story surprises you with a fresh burst of energy or emotional insight, keeping the audience continuously engaged. This rhythmic balance makes the viewing experience rich and satisfying, catering to a wide range of emotional beats without ever overstaying its welcome in any one mood. The film also brings a number of fresh ideas and inventive twists to the table, breathing new life into its genre. Whether it's unconventional character choices that challenge stereotypes, plot developments that defy predictability, or narrative structures that play with time and perspective, The Surrender demonstrates a willingness to innovate. These creative risks pay off by expanding the genre's boundaries and encouraging viewers to rethink what kind of stories can be told within this familiar framework. The result is a film that feels both respectful of its roots and excited to push forward. Moreover, there's a subtle meta-awareness woven throughout the film's genre execution. By occasionally highlighting or exaggerating certain familiar tropes before undercutting them, the movie invites the audience to reflect on the genre itself. This self-referential quality adds an extra layer of sophistication, turning the film into not just a story within a genre but also a commentary on the genre's conventions and potential. It's like a knowing wink to the audience that enriches the experience for those familiar with the genre's history while remaining accessible to newcomers. Ultimately, The Surrender crafts a genre experience that's anything but formulaic. It respects the foundations of its category, delivering the thrills, tension, and emotional resonance that fans crave, but it also breathes new life into those elements through inventive storytelling and nuanced character work. The film's ability to balance action, suspense, humor, and drama, all while weaving in clever subversions and fresh ideas, creates a compelling and entertaining ride that keeps audiences hooked and guessing. It's this blend of comfort and surprise, tradition and innovation, that makes the film a standout example of genre execution done right. The Surrender operates on more than just the surface level of its plot and characters. It weaves a rich tapestry of social and cultural commentary that adds a fascinating depth to the film, making it much more than just a typical genre piece. What really stands out is how seamlessly these themes are integrated. The film doesn't hit you over the head with a message or feel like it's trying too hard to be relevant. Instead, the social and cultural questions arise naturally from the world the story inhabits and the choices the characters make, giving the commentary an organic feel that invites viewers to think without feeling preached to. One of the key ways the film accomplishes this is by exploring contemporary issues that resonate deeply with today's audiences, but it does so through personal stories rather than abstract discourse. It touches on ideas around identity, belonging, and the struggle between upholding traditions and embracing change. Topics that are not just societal but intensely personal for the characters involved. This means that the themes don't float in a vacuum. They're grounded in human experience, which makes them feel immediate and relatable. Instead of feeling like a lecture on social issues, the film feels like a window into the complex, often messy realities that real people face when navigating culture, expectations, and personal growth. Handling sensitive or complex topics can be a tricky tightrope to walk, but The Surrender manages it with remarkable nuance and empathy. The film resists oversimplifying thorny issues or offering easy answers. Instead, it embraces ambiguity, showing that social and cultural problems are layered and multifaceted. Characters wrestle with these complexities in believable ways, sometimes making mistakes, sometimes learning and evolving, but always portrayed with a humanity that respects their struggles. This approach encourages viewers to think critically and empathize rather than judge, fostering a space for genuine reflection. What adds to this depth is the film's ability to link personal conflicts with larger societal forces. It's not just about individual characters but also about how systemic issues like inequality, power imbalances, or cultural expectations shape lives and choices. For example, the story might delve into how certain characters are constrained by social norms or economic realities, highlighting how personal freedom and societal structures are intertwined. This connection makes the film's commentary feel holistic, showing that no one exists in isolation and that understanding social context is key to understanding the characters' journeys. Another compelling aspect of the film's social commentary is its refusal to reduce issues to black and white. Instead, it revels in the gray areas, portraying people with conflicting motivations, imperfect decisions, and evolving beliefs. This layered portrayal prevents the story from becoming didactic or preachy. Instead, it invites the audience into a nuanced conversation, making space for multiple perspectives and encouraging viewers to grapple with the complexity of real-world issues rather than settling for simplistic answers. This intellectual honesty is one of the film's most refreshing qualities. The cultural commentary extends beautifully into the realm of relationships and community. The film shines a spotlight on how people from diverse backgrounds attempt to connect, understand each other, and negotiate differences. It shows the challenges of communication across cultural divides, the power of empathy, and the friction that can come with change. Characters often find themselves caught between competing loyalties or cultural expectations, which creates tension but also opportunities for growth. These explorations feel deeply human and relevant, reminding us that culture is not static but a living, breathing process shaped by dialogue and interaction. What makes The Surrender particularly effective in its commentary is its subtle critique of societal norms and power structures. It doesn't launch into overt political statements or polarizing declarations but instead gently questions the status quo through story and character. By inviting viewers to reconsider why certain things exist the way they do, the film becomes a kind of quiet rebellion, one that encourages open-mindedness and a willingness to imagine alternatives. This measured approach keeps the commentary accessible and thought-provoking without alienating viewers who might have different views. The film's portrayal of cultural specificity is another highlight, offering rich detail that brings the setting and its social dynamics to life. Instead of relying on broad stereotypes or clichés, the film paints a textured picture of its environment, traditions, and communities. This authenticity deepens the narrative, immersing the audience in a world that feels lived in and real. The film celebrates cultural diversity while also acknowledging the tensions and challenges that arise from coexistence and change, making its social commentary both respectful and insightful. Finally, the social and cultural commentary acts like a powerful undercurrent beneath the surface thrills and emotional arcs of the film. It adds layers of meaning and invites viewers to engage with the story on multiple levels. The balance between entertainment and thoughtful insight is carefully maintained, allowing the film to be both engaging and intellectually stimulating. For anyone willing to look beyond the immediate plot, The Surrender offers a rich exploration of contemporary social issues that feels relevant, nuanced, and ultimately rewarding, making it a film that lingers in the mind long after the credits roll. The Surrender is crafted with an acute awareness of how to emotionally engage its audience in a way that feels genuine and immersive. From the very beginning, the film grabs you, not just with its storyline but with a palpable emotional undercurrent that invites you to invest your feelings in the characters' lives. It's a bit like being pulled into someone else's world, where every laugh, tear and gasp isn't just a moment on screen but something that resonates deeply within you. The film's emotional architecture is impressively complex, orchestrating a symphony of feelings that range from subtle empathy to intense emotional outbursts, creating a roller coaster experience that keeps viewers glued to their seats. What stands out is the way the film handles emotional moments without ever resorting to clichés or cheap tricks. Instead of relying on melodrama or forced sentimentality, the film's emotional beats grow organically out of the characters' personal struggles and triumphs. When a character experiences joy, heartbreak, or frustration, it feels authentic and earned. This authenticity makes those emotional moments hit harder because the audience has been carefully guided to care about these characters, to understand their fears, hopes, and flaws. You're not just watching the events unfold, you're feeling them, sharing the emotional weight alongside the characters. Humor plays a surprisingly important role in this emotional mix. The film doesn't just dish out laughs for the sake of lightening the mood. It uses humor to deepen character relationships and reveal layers of personality. The witty banter and unexpected comedic moments provide a refreshing contrast to the more intense scenes, making the characters more relatable and human. This balance of humor and drama prevents the film from becoming too heavy, keeping the emotional journey varied and dynamic. Excitement and suspense are carefully woven into the narrative fabric, ensuring that the audience remains engaged on a visceral level. The pacing is meticulously calibrated, with tension rising and falling in waves that mirror the emotional journeys of the characters. You find yourself caught in moments of breathless anticipation, your heart racing as the stakes escalate, followed by quieter, more introspective scenes that allow for emotional processing. This rhythm prevents fatigue and maintains a sense of momentum that propels the story forward. But beyond these immediate emotional reactions, The Surrender excels at fostering long-term engagement. The story is rich with themes and moral dilemmas that invite viewers to reflect deeply, sparking questions that linger well after the film ends. It's not just entertainment. It's an invitation to think critically about the issues raised and to consider different perspectives. This reflective quality makes the film a conversation starter, encouraging discussions that go beyond the screen and into real life. Whether debating character choices or pondering the film's social commentary, audiences find themselves mentally engaged long after the viewing experience. The film's layered storytelling also rewards repeat viewings. On first watch, the emotional highs and lows capture your attention and heart, but subsequent viewings reveal a wealth of subtle details. Nuanced performances, carefully crafted dialogue, and visual storytelling cues that deepen the narrative. This richness adds to the film's lasting appeal, transforming it from a one-time spectacle into a work that audiences return to for new insights and emotional resonance. Central to this emotional connection is the film's cast, whose performances breathe life into the characters and make their experiences feel personal and tangible. These portrayals foster empathy, allowing the audience to see themselves reflected in the characters' struggles and triumphs. This identification is crucial. It turns watching the film into a shared emotional journey rather than a detached viewing experience. Moreover, the film isn't afraid to shock or surprise its audience, using twists and unexpected developments to disrupt expectations and heighten emotional investment. These moments of unpredictability keep the narrative fresh and exciting, challenging viewers to stay alert and emotionally present. They also serve to deepen the complexity of the story, adding layers of tension and intrigue that fuel ongoing engagement. In essence, The Surrender achieves a masterful blend of emotional resonance and narrative excitement, creating an experience that is both deeply moving and entertaining. The film expertly balances laughter, tension, sorrow, and surprise, ensuring that the audience is not just watching but truly feeling the story unfold. This dynamic emotional engagement transforms the film from mere storytelling into an immersive journey that captivates the heart and mind alike, making it a memorable cinematic experience that stays with viewers long after the screen fades to black. When you really dive into comparing The Surrender with other films in its genre, the director's past projects, or even broader franchises with similar themes, the picture becomes even more fascinating. This movie doesn't just blend into the background of suspense dramas or psychological thrillers. It actively plays with the expectations that come with those labels, turning some familiar tropes on their heads while embracing others in surprising ways. It's like meeting a friend who knows your favorite jokes but then tells them with a fresh twist that makes you laugh all over again. There's a certain confidence in how The Surrender balances familiarity and innovation, and that's part of what keeps it so engaging from start to finish. Take the genre itself. Thrillers and dramas often lean heavily on certain well-worn formulas. A ticking clock, a morally ambiguous protagonist, or the classic "who can you trust?" setup. Many films stick rigidly to these patterns, which can lead to predictability or even boredom. The Surrender, however, doesn't shy away from these staples but reinterprets them in ways that feel less rehearsed and more lived in. Instead of presenting a black-and-white battle between good and evil, the film revels in the gray areas where characters wrestle with their choices and consequences. The tension isn't just external but deeply psychological, offering a richer, more textured experience than many straightforward genre films. Now, looking at the director's previous films, fans will spot familiar stylistic fingerprints. Maybe it's a way of framing a scene, a particular mood, or a recurring theme about identity and redemption. But what's striking here is how The Surrender feels like an evolution of those earlier works. The director has clearly grown more assured, choosing to slow down in the right places to let emotions simmer and build rather than rushing for cheap thrills. There's a maturity in how the story unfolds, giving characters room to breathe and develop in ways that feel natural. It's a bit like watching a favorite musician release a new album that revisits their signature sound, but also experiments with new genres and rhythms to surprising effect. In comparison to other recent films tackling similar subject matter, The Surrender stands out for its emotional honesty and nuanced storytelling. Whereas some thrillers prioritize shock value or plot twists, this film digs deeper into the internal conflicts that drive its characters. That emotional depth is its secret weapon, setting it apart in a crowded field of movies that sometimes favor spectacle over substance. The relationships portrayed here are messy, complicated, and real, not the sanitized or overly simplified versions often seen in genre fare. This makes the audience care more and invests the story with a sense of authenticity that's hard to fake. Interestingly, while the film pushes boundaries in many ways, it also cleverly nods to genre conventions without feeling trapped by them. There are moments when it winks knowingly at the audience, like when it uses a classic suspense-building technique or drops a familiar character trope, but it does so with a sense of playfulness and self-awareness that prevents these moments from feeling tired or formulaic. This creates a dynamic viewing experience where you feel both comforted by the familiar and intrigued by the unexpected twists and turns. Compared to blockbuster thrillers that rely heavily on big budgets and visual spectacle, The Surrender leans into a more restrained, character-driven approach. It proves that you don't need non-stop action or flashy effects to keep audiences hooked. Sometimes, it's the quiet, tense moments filled with emotional complexity that pack the biggest punch. This aligns the film with a recent wave of smart, sophisticated thrillers that prioritize storytelling and character over spectacle. But The Surrender distinguishes itself by maintaining a taut narrative drive that never lets the momentum falter. If you stack it alongside the director's other work or films from similar genres, The Surrender feels like a bridge. One foot firmly planted in tradition and the other stepping into bold new territory. It respects the storytelling conventions that audiences love while pushing the envelope to explore fresh emotional and thematic ground. This balance of reverence and innovation makes it an exciting watch for anyone looking for a film that knows what fans want but isn't afraid to surprise them. Ultimately, when you place The Surrender side by side with comparable films, it's clear that it offers a unique blend of familiar genre elements and fresh storytelling ideas. It embraces complexity in character and plot, balances tension with emotional depth, and combines a thoughtful directorial vision with engaging performances. For viewers tired of the same old formulaic thrillers, this movie offers a refreshing change of pace. One that's rich, nuanced, and genuinely entertaining, inviting you to experience the genre anew while feeling perfectly at home in it. The Surrender doesn't just tell a story on the surface. It invites viewers into a rich, symbolic world where almost every frame, object, and gesture carries deeper meaning. These layers of symbolism and metaphor make watching the film feel like an engaging puzzle, where subtle clues are hidden in plain sight, waiting for those curious enough to pick up on them. The film's creators have crafted a visual and narrative language that goes beyond words, transforming the experience into something that resonates on multiple levels, long after the credits roll. One of the most compelling symbolic elements throughout the film is the constant dance between light and shadow. This isn't merely a stylistic choice for mood. It's a visual metaphor reflecting the duality within the characters. Their struggles between hope and despair, truth and deception, control and surrender. The use of chiaroscuro lighting creates an almost tangible tension, as if the characters themselves are caught in a battle between opposing forces. For example, a character might be illuminated by a harsh, unforgiving spotlight during moments of revelation or guilt, while shadows creep in during moments of doubt or secrecy. This interplay between illumination and darkness invites the audience to peer beneath the surface, suggesting that what's visible is often only a fragment of a more complex emotional truth. Delving deeper, the motif of surrender itself permeates the film's symbolism in a multifaceted way. It is not simply about giving up or defeat. Rather, it explores the nuanced emotional acts of release, acceptance, and transformation. Visual cues like open hands, wilted flowers, or slow closing doors appear throughout the narrative, serving as metaphors for letting go. Whether it's surrendering control, past trauma, or resisting inevitable change. This rich symbolic framework transforms surrender into a powerful, almost spiritual act that marks both endings and new beginnings. It challenges the viewer to rethink the idea of surrender not as weakness, but as a complex, courageous decision. The environments and settings in the surrender aren't just backdrops. They function symbolically to mirror the characters' inner worlds. Tight, claustrophobic spaces represent feelings of entrapment, anxiety, or suffocation, both physically and emotionally, while wide-open spaces or natural landscapes symbolize freedom, escape, or moments of clarity. These spatial metaphors work hand in hand with the narrative, grounding abstract emotional themes in tangible places. For example, a character's journey from confined city streets to an open, sunlit field visually dramatizes an internal transformation from confusion and restriction to hope and possibility. The settings become extensions of the characters' minds, inviting viewers to experience their emotional states through the film's geography. Color symbolism adds yet another powerful dimension. The filmmakers have carefully chosen color palettes that subtly shift throughout the film to evoke and reinforce moods and themes. Cool tones like blues and grays often accompany scenes of isolation, melancholy, or emotional distance, while warmer colors like reds, oranges, and golds mark moments charged with passion, danger, or intense emotional breakthroughs. These recurring color motifs act almost like a visual shorthand, helping the audience intuitively understand shifts in tone or theme without needing explicit explanation. The strategic use of color amplifies the emotional impact, transforming ordinary scenes into evocative, symbolic moments. Dialogue and repeated phrases also carry metaphorical weight. Lines about breaking chains, crossing boundaries, or carrying burdens appear multiple times, threading through conversations and underscoring central thematic ideas. These verbal motifs function like a poetic refrain, reminding viewers of the deeper struggles faced by the characters. They encourage reflection on themes of freedom, responsibility, and transformation, enriching the dialogue beyond its literal meaning. This use of language as metaphor adds a lyrical quality to the screenplay, making even seemingly casual lines resonate with significance. Small, everyday objects take on heightened symbolic importance as well. Whether it's a cracked mirror reflecting fractured identity, a worn photograph symbolizing memory and loss, or a ticking clock representing the relentless passage of time, these items serve as tangible anchors for the film's abstract ideas. They ground the story in concrete imagery, allowing viewers to connect emotionally with the themes on a sensory level. These visual metaphors are scattered thoughtfully throughout the film, inviting audiences to pause and consider the layers beneath the surface action. What's remarkable is that these symbols and metaphors never feel forced or preachy. Instead, they're woven organically into the film's visual storytelling, dialogue, and character moments. The subtlety of these elements means they enrich the viewing experience without overshadowing the plot or feeling like obvious message moments. This natural integration invites viewers of all kinds, whether casual watchers or those who love dissecting symbolism, to engage with the film at the level they choose. This layered symbolism also encourages repeat viewings. Each time you watch The Surrender, you may notice new motifs or connections you missed before, turning the film into a rewarding ongoing experience rather than a one-time spectacle. It invites discussion and interpretation, as audiences share their takes on the meanings behind certain symbols or metaphors, deepening the communal experience of the movie. In the end, the symbolism and metaphors in The Surrender elevate the film beyond a simple story into a richly textured work of art. They enrich the narrative, deepen emotional engagement, and provide a hidden language that connects the viewer more intimately to the characters' journeys. These elements invite you to not just watch the film but to feel and think through it, transforming the experience into an interactive, thoughtful exploration of surrender, identity, and human resilience. Each symbol and metaphor acts like a secret passageway into the film's soul, waiting for the audience to unlock its mysteries and discover the layers of meaning hidden within. When we dive deeper into the surrender through the lens of its franchise or historical context, the film takes on an even richer dimension that invites us to appreciate it beyond just a standalone story. If this movie is part of a larger franchise, it plays an essential role in expanding the universe, weaving new threads into an already intricate tapestry. It's not merely a filler or a side story. Rather, it feels like a crucial chapter that enriches the overarching narrative, providing fans with both continuity and fresh perspectives. The way it interacts with previous films, whether through character arcs, plot developments, or thematic echoes, creates a satisfying sense of progression, as if you're witnessing a story that's continuously evolving and deepening with each installment. What's particularly engaging about the surrender in a franchise setting is how it balances familiarity with innovation. It respects the foundation laid by earlier entries, honoring beloved characters and established lore, but also isn't afraid to shake things up with new conflicts, surprising alliances, or unexpected character growth. This delicate balance is key for keeping longtime fans hooked while also welcoming new viewers who might be jumping in for the first time. The filmmakers cleverly drop in Easter eggs and subtle callbacks that reward attentive viewers, making each scene feel layered with meaning. These references build a bridge between the past and present of the franchise, turning the film into a rewarding experience whether you're a casual fan or a die-hard enthusiast. The narrative threads often loop back, tying loose ends from earlier films or setting up intriguing possibilities for future ones, which keeps the momentum going beyond the final credits. If The Surrender instead stands as a historical film, its dedication to recreating the era is nothing short of impressive, turning the screen into a vivid portal to the past. The filmmakers dive headfirst into authenticity, crafting environments and costumes with meticulous care that help immerse viewers in the time period. But it's not just about looking the part. The film captures the spirit of the era by exploring social, political, and cultural realities with nuance. The settings feel lived in and authentic, from the way characters dress and speak to the small details like furniture, vehicles, or street scenes that instantly transport you to that time. This level of detail creates a sensory experience where you're not just watching history unfold, but almost stepping into it. The historical context in The Surrender isn't treated as a dry backdrop but becomes a living, breathing part of the narrative. Real events, social tensions, and cultural dynamics are woven seamlessly into the storyline, grounding the characters' personal dramas in the larger forces shaping their world. This adds emotional weight and complexity. Viewers aren't just witnessing isolated events but are invited to consider how history impacts individual lives and choices. The film's ability to balance factual accuracy with compelling storytelling means it educates and entertains simultaneously, shedding light on less familiar historical details without overwhelming or derailing the plot. What really sets the historical portrayal apart is the filmmaker's skill in choosing which details to highlight and which to leave in the background. They focus on elements that amplify the story's themes and character journeys, rather than drowning the audience in exhaustive research. This selective approach means that history enhances the drama instead of getting in its way. Moments of political intrigue, cultural clash, or societal change ripple through the narrative, providing context for the characters' motivations and conflicts without ever feeling like a history lesson. Instead, history becomes an active force shaping the story's emotional core, adding layers of meaning that resonate with modern viewers. Whether it's part of a franchise or a standalone historical drama, The Surrender thrives on its ability to place its story within a broader context that adds richness and depth. The film doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's connected to a wider world, whether fictional or real, and that connection enhances everything you see on screen. It challenges the audience to think beyond just what's happening in the moment and consider how the story fits into a larger narrative or historical framework. This contextual awareness invites more engaged viewing, encouraging discussion, speculation, and deeper reflection on the themes and characters. In both cases, the film's contextual richness turns watching it into a rewarding journey, whether you're tracking the evolution of a sprawling saga or stepping back into a fascinating slice of history. It's this interplay between the immediate story and the wider world that makes The Surrender feel alive and compelling, sparking curiosity about what came before, what's unfolding now, and what might happen next. The film becomes more than just a story on screen. It's a dynamic piece of a bigger puzzle, inviting viewers to become active participants in its unfolding legacy or historical exploration. This layered approach ensures the experience lingers in the mind, calling you back to revisit and rethink what you've seen with fresh eyes each time. Alright, so you're gearing up to watch The Surrender and wondering exactly where to find it. Because how and where you watch a movie can totally change the vibe and your whole experience. Let's dig into all the options so you can decide what suits your style best and get the absolute most out of this film. First things first, if you're someone who thrives on that big screen magic, the booming surround sound, the massive visuals, the electric atmosphere created by a crowd reacting in real time, then hunting down The Surrender in a theater is definitely your go-to. Watching it on the big screen turns every plot twist into a heart-pounding moment and every emotional beat into something you feel right in your bones. The immersive audio-visual setup of a cinema isn't just about seeing the movie. It's about experiencing it. Plus, nothing quite matches the communal energy. People gasping, laughing, or even crying together, which makes the whole experience feel alive and shared. If you're lucky enough to catch The Surrender still playing in theaters near you, do yourself a favor and make a night out of it. Popcorn, comfy seats, and that unmistakable theater buzz. But hey, maybe you missed the theater run or just prefer chilling at home, couch-bound and snack-ready. No worries at all. These days, streaming platforms have become the cinematic living room, offering a super convenient way to watch movies like The Surrender anytime, anywhere. Streaming services usually provide high-definition quality, and if you have a good sound system or headphones, you're still in for an immersive experience. Streaming gives you the freedom to pause, rewind, or fast-forward as you please, which means you can catch those subtle moments you might otherwise miss or just savor a favorite scene longer. It's perfect for watching with friends or family too, especially if you want to chat about what's happening without disturbing a theater audience. On top of that, streaming platforms often offer subtitles and multiple language options, making the film accessible to a wide range of viewers no matter their preferred language or hearing ability. Now, let's talk about digital rental and purchase. This is a flexible option for those who might not have a streaming subscription but still want to watch the film digitally. Renting The Surrender typically gives you a window of time, usually 24 to 48 hours, to watch it as many times as you want, while purchasing it means you own a digital copy that lives in your account forever. This is especially handy if you want to watch on different devices like your phone, tablet, smart TV, or laptop without relying on internet connection speeds or subscription availability. Owning the film digitally also means you can revisit it whenever the mood strikes. Perfect for dissecting the story, catching hidden details, or just enjoying it again and again. For those who love surprises or prefer traditional TV, The Surrender might occasionally pop up on satellite or cable channels, especially during special movie marathons, film festivals, or on-demand movie nights curated by networks. This can be a nice, relaxed way to stumble upon the film without any planning. Just keep an eye on your local listings or movie channel schedules. Sometimes catching a film this way comes with the charm of a spontaneous movie night that's less about the technical quality and more about the shared experience at home. And if you're a true cinephile or collector, the ultimate way to experience The Surrender could be waiting for its Blu-ray or 4K Ultra HD release. Physical copies usually pack in the highest picture quality and sound fidelity, offering crisp visuals with vibrant colors and deeper blacks, plus rich, layered audio that puts you right in the middle of the action. Beyond the upgrade in quality, these releases often come loaded with bonus content. Think behind-the-scenes footage, interviews with the cast and crew, deleted scenes, and director's commentary. These extras give you a peek into how the film was made and enrich your overall understanding and appreciation. It's like going beyond just watching the story to actually stepping inside the filmmaking process itself. Also, let's not forget the growing trend of hybrid releases. Some films now launch simultaneously in theaters and on streaming platforms, letting viewers choose their preferred way to watch from day one. This can be a game changer if you're someone who wants the theater experience but also likes the convenience of watching at home, giving you the best of both worlds. This strategy also means that if you can't make it to a theater for any reason, you don't have to wait long to catch the film legally and in high quality from the comfort of your home. So whether you're a theater enthusiast who craves that big immersive experience, a cozy home viewer who loves the flexibility of streaming, a savvy digital renter or buyer who enjoys control over when and how you watch, a casual channel surfer hoping for a lucky broadcast, or a dedicated collector looking for the finest quality and extras, the ways to watch The Surrender are as varied as the movie's own twists and turns. Whichever option you pick, the important thing is that you get to experience the story in a way that feels best for you, allowing you to connect deeply with the film's drama, thrills, and characters. So grab your preferred device or ticket, get comfy, and get ready to immerse yourself in the world of The Surrender. the perfect cinematic adventure awaits.